Hello, hello, test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Hello, hello, can everybody hear me loud and clear? Very sorry about that. We have had the stream go down for some reason. YouTube's connectivity decided to go a little bit downhill, but we are back. It should not have started a new stream. For some reason, just the whole stream service seemed to go down all of a sudden. Very sorry about that. But we are back. We are in the midst of qualifying right now, and I will just need to very quickly make some very small adjustments to the stream. So if you can all bear with me for a very small moment, please, because we have had some major technical issues at a very short time. Okay, so I think everything is cured right now, but that's a very odd incident that happened. But we are underway with qualifying once again. And we can see that so far, in terms of provisional lap times, we have Zefix's Bandit, who is currently our provisional pole sitter with a 201.860. The Frenchman already setting a good marker by comparison with Giova and also the other drivers. Although all of our drivers are now on to their final lap, practically, and we do have one driver who is already going to be crossing the line right at the end of a very difficult qualifying session, and it will be TX3's Epic Man San, who's just going to be putting in one flying lap here. So I think Epic Man San realising that this qualifying session isn't going to be the best of them, with what is in the end a 2 minutes 03.232. So that is Epic Man San's qualifying session complete. But meanwhile, up front in our qualifying order, we can see that Bandit on a fast lap right now, and well, nobody else around him seems to be able to be within touching distance, as Giova is 2.5 tenths down and not improving considerably on this lap in particular. At the head of that pack, all charging down towards the chase right now, and then into that final chicane. It will, well, Halbstark is on a personal best, but the lead of our pack coming into the final chicane, it is, well, it's being led by GTBE-Schettura, who's coming into the final corner very shortly, going a little bit wide out of the final chicane, but getting a nice line. And I think all is well for Schettura as he comes into the final corner then. And where is this going to place him? It's going to put him, I think, up towards the front. It is a 202.5, putting him in a provisional P2. Polo improving to P6 on a 203. We have then got, I believe we've got Zefix Bandit coming up towards the line. Well, we've got Cal coming across for 202.7. Bandit does not improve, and Schettura doesn't manage to close the gap down, but Quebec is up into provisional P1. Can anybody else beat the Canadian with that 201.7, as we see Giova does not improve massively, but to a 201.9. Halbstark to a 201.9 as well. All the laps pouring in right now, and well, Sonam up to a 201.8, putting in provisional P3. And anybody else for any more orders coming across the line right now? We don't see any improvement from the drivers at the rear, as Lupinero does not improve, and then it is Aurelius with 203.6. So qualifying is complete, and pole goes to Let Quebec in from Phoenix Racing. So without further ado then, it is time for race number 3 to get underway. 5 laps, it's a sprint race. Who's going to be the winner by the end of it? We'll find out in due order. But keep in mind, of course, we have got a lot of fast drivers in the mix here, and Bandit will be the one who'll be looking to jump, let Quebec in as soon as humanly possible. A very fast driver is Bandit. He'll be trying to jump in there and get in the way. As they'll make their way underway with the rolling start procedure, of course, coming to the final corner, and then they'll be kicking it off very shortly after that. And as we count down, it'll be 3, 2, 1. It's lights out. Away we go once again as Quebec makes its way down towards turn 1. But everybody will immediately try and tuck in to the slipstream of the driver in front. And we can see that Sonam has not had the best of starts and is starting to fall back into the clutches of Halstar. Albeit Quebec has had a poor exit out of turn 1. And Bandit, I think, immediately is going to try and go on the charge here before they even get to the end of turn 2. I think he's going to try and throw it up the inside. And Quebec is immediately responding by going defensive and then squeezing it to the middle of the circuit, but he's got to give Bandit room as Bandit tries to go for a very early overtake around the outside. Sonam in P3 right now, having to hold off Harbstark as much as possible, but there's a sizable gap between our top 4 and then Giova in the lonely P5 right now, and Schettura having to defend against Areticow. The two drivers who once raced together in 2020 now races separately in 2021, as one as part of GTBE, the other as part of WSR, and I think Areticow right now feels he's in striking distance as we look forward from Articow's point of view right now, riding on the riding on the roof of Articow's car and chasing after Schettura, and look how fierce he's throwing the car through the run over the hill and now coming up towards Skyline here, and he's absolutely milking it is for all it's worth in terms of trying to get as close as possible to Schettura for the run out of Forest Elbow and down the chase. But up front you can see that Bandit not able to close up too much towards Quebec and actually falling back into the clutches of Sonam at this point in time, and Quebec getting it a little bit deep coming out of Forest Elbow there, or in the entry I should say, and that cost him in going into deep. And so you see them all coming down the straight now on the chase and coming up towards the chicane for the first time of asking. And we have got our top 5 closing out, albeit Giova is now in the slipstream of Halmstad. He's not getting a quadruple toe, he's just getting the singular toe of Halmstad, but he will close up very gradually. And this is great news, of course, for Giova as we see Areticow going to toe-to-toe with Schettura, and Schettura is going to hold to the inside, but I think Areticow has got it done before the breaking point because he just had so much momentum and the overspeed has worked out for the Belgian driver. Areticow up into P5, into P6, Schettura in P7 as they all make their way down to the final corner, and that is lap number 1 complete. So after one lap, it is Quebec ahead of Bandit, followed by Sonam, then Halmstad, then Giova in the hunt for P1. Then it's Areticow leading the battle for P6 ahead of Schettura, then Polo leading from Safer, followed by Kyle. Then it's got Lupinero, followed by Azerti, who's battling with Lupinero for P11 into turn 1, and he's not able to quite get it done on the inside as Lupinero takes the racing line and has the momentum and just simply runs it round Azerti. But good try by Azerti, who's still in P12. Then we've got Epic Man San in P13, and last but not least right now it is Aurelius, who's chasing after everybody and trying to make up for the difficult string of races he's had so far. But in that hunt for the lead right now, you can see that Quebec is feeling a huge amount of pressure. And what I think Quebec is trying to do here, as we look back from Quebec's car, with his opening lap being a 2:08.5, which is not bad for an open lap, and it was the fastest of all our drivers. Quebec is essentially trying to set up a situation where he's going to be trying to get the drivers behind him to fight one another. So he wants them to trip over one another rather than have to defend versus Bandit all too frequently. So you might find that it'll be prudent for him to go a little bit slower through the hill section and into Forest Elbow, so that way he can cause Bandit to close up. And you can see Sonam all over the back of Bandit. They're getting so close to one another, and exactly my case in point, Sonam now will be within a good striking distance of Bandit should he now Forest Elbow. As we can see, Areticow also getting in the hunt for the race lead here, and we could, well, goodness me, and Sonam already going for the move on Bandit. Now I'm wondering whether this is a bit premature from Sonam because we've got a lot of straight to go, and Bandit is immediately going to come back. But you can see Sonam placing the car right in the centre of the road, and I think if we ride on board with Bandit, to quote the famous Murray Walker line, I'm going for first, says Bandit. Well, he's going to have to get past Sonam first because Sonam is not going to let him through. And as they come through the chicane for the second time of asking, and we look back to the third-person camera, we can see that Bandit is pulling a little bit away from Giova, and Giova, in fact, is really working it hard here and has got past Halstark. Now, how did that happen, you ask? Well, as they were coming down the run into the chicane here, I think it's a standard move, and Halstark simply let it happen because he knows that he can always come back at Giova on a later lap. There's no point fighting too much because they're going to fall off the race of the podium here, and Areticow is right on the back of that pack now as they all come out of turn 1 on lap number 3. And Schettura is chased after these guys, but he's a little bit back, but he's got a nice gap to Polo, who's holding on to P7 right now. Is the Frenchman against his fellow countryman, Safer chasing after Polo. Of course, they're for different teams. The Storm driver chasing the RTA driver with Fury and doing everything they can to try and find a way past. But I don't think there's going to be a move on right now as they all make their way up towards the cut-in for the third time of asking. Behind them, we've got Cal, who's in P9 and just simply holding on to a bit of a no man's land here and not really able to close up to anyone at the moment, and Lupanero has finally cleared away from Epic Man San and Azerti falling back to Epic Man San, the TEX3 driver getting it done. Behind them, of course, we have got Azerti, who is chasing after Epic Man San with absolute fury, and then we've got Aurelius, who's trying to get in the mix, and Sonam. Hold on a second, what has happened to Sonam? He's completely lost out in the order here, and I think, well, that must have been somewhere on the start of lap 1. Perhaps he just went wide at the opening corner, but with Sonam dropping all this way back now, that really opens things up. I did not notice that. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, because Sonam has just got it all wrong, and Bandit is back up into P2. Well, that can't have happened too much further back in terms of lap number 3. That happened off camera, and that means that Sonam is right at the back of the field right now, as we can see that Bandit is chasing after our race leader once again. But with that battle with Sonam, he now finds himself in a bit of a position where he's got to try and close that 1.5 second gap down in the space of 2 laps. Can Bandit do it? We know he can close the gap down very gradually, but you can see in the rear view camera shot Areticow and Halstark going toe to toe, and it is Halstark who gets a little bit too scruffy going into the chicane now, and I think Halstark's had to lift out of it because it all went very close to tears, and as a result Halstark is now back into P6. Let's take a look back at what happened with regards to that. So going up towards the chicane, then you're going to see Areticow gets a huge overspeed here. He's got so much speed in that McLaren by comparison with Halstark's own 650S, and I think that's what Articow's geared it for, is that run down the hill, particularly in dirty air. And you can see that Halstark went defensive, but I think he just simply got it wrong and was a little bit worried about losing the car, and that's why he had to lift out, and he dropped 2 places in defending 1. And that means now Safer, who's got past Polo, it should be pointed out, at that same sequence of corners, now up into P7 is Safer, and chasing after Polo with absolute fury here. But I don't think at this point, Safe chased after Polo, Polo chased after him with absolute fury here. I don't think there's going to be a move on between the two for the time being, as they all fall into the sequence for right now and try to size one another up before the final lap, alternatively before the run down into the chase once again. Cal, meanwhile, in P9 and is doing a very good job of just simply holding on to that position. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. At the same time, nothing ventured, nothing lost for the Polish driver. And then we've got Lupanero, who is coming after him, but it's a very gradual process right now with the Italian driver not really being able to get close enough. But meanwhile, up front, we can see that Quebec is doing everything he needs to do just to hold off Bandit, and Bandit is closing that gap up. The gap has closed by 4 tenths so far on this lap, so I think Bandit is going to be within striking distance on the final lap, but it all comes down to nailing each and every lap, and Quebec getting a much better run out for his sailboat, and you can see that gap has opened back up by almost 2 tenths as a result of that better run. But now it comes onto the straight, and that's where it all changes once again, as we see Schettura chasing after Areticow, but Articow's McLaren is flying on these straights. I think he's giving it some sort of speed boost or so, because it is phenomenal down these straights by comparison with Schettura's own car, and it's difficult for Areticow right now to really worry about Giova up front, because he needs to hold on to that P4. That would be a solid result as is, as we see further behind Saver, and hold a second, Polo's gone off. Now, was there contact there between Polo and perhaps Cal, as Cal is up into P8? I don't think there was. I think Polo might have just gone late on the brakes, but we will find out for you, as we're going to ride on board with Kiel's car here, so that way we'll get a true feel for what happens. So as they're coming down towards the chase here and into the chicane, you're going to see that, well, we'll see that Kiel's going to get very close to the back of Polo here, and I think Polo just simply missed it on the brakes. Yeah, he just got it wrong on the brakes. There was no contact whatsoever, and Kiel inherits the position. And Kiel now up into P8 at the expense of Polo, who's down into P10, but is chasing after Lupanero, and you can imagine he'll try and close that gap up if he can on the final couple of laps. But as they're they're going forward and pushing harder and harder here. Going on to the final lap, you can see Let Quebec in is leading up front by exactly 1 second. Areticow in P4 has set the fastest lap of the race so far, a 2:02.519 from that man. As we see, Bandit is doing everything he possibly can, the Frenchman, to throw the kitchen sink at Quebec and get past the fellow Canadian, as we notice that Giova is making his way around, and I think Giova will settle for the bottom step of the podium here. I think this will be a good result for the Belgian, as he's got a good gap to Areticow behind and he doesn't feel too much pressure. Schettura, meanwhile, pulling away from Safer, who has got past Halbstart. That's happened up into turn 2. I'm hearing from the trackside stewards as they're making their way, these drivers, over Skyline now, and Safer up into P6. And well, Halbstart is having a very difficult race, and Halbstart clipped the wall there, and that has cost him some momentum, and he's got front damage as well as they go side by, well, they almost go side by side down to Forest's elbow, and Cow's got to bide his time on this one. He can't afford to get too eager to make the move here, because he just needs to wait until they get onto the Conrod straight here, and he'll get the move done as Halbstart immediately goes defensive for turn 20, and Cow is going to drag race him all the way down the hill here. Meanwhile, up front we see that Bandit and Let Quebec are so close together right now. There could be a move right at the end. We'll keep our eyes on that. We see that Cow is up into P7. He's got the move done on the Halbstart, but what about our race leader as they come to the final corner? Will Bandit go for the move, or will he settle for P2? It's going to be a drag race to the end of the race, and it will be Quebec, I think, who's just done enough to hold off. The Canadian wins ahead of the Frenchman of Bandit. Giova brings home a P3, Areticow P4, P5 goes to Schettura, and it will be Safer who just holds off Cow, and Halbstart in a drag race to line. The pole gets it, and it's Lupinero in P9, followed by Polo in P2. Oh, I say that, and Polo into the wall. He's only got a couple of yards to go. Polo, you can do it. Just point in a straight line and milk that throttle. You've done it, and then it's going to be Aurelius in P11, followed by Azerti in P12, Epic Sandsman in P13, and then last but not least, our drivers, after a disastrous race where it was going so well for the Greek at first, is going to be Sonam, and he will be ruining race 3. But conversely, of course, it means he will be starting at the front for the purposes of race number 4, our final race of this evening. So what works out now for him is the fact he will have the pick of positions for the final race. But congratulations to all of our drivers once again, and most importantly, congratulations to our race winner, Let Quebec in from Team PHX. What a fantastic race from all of our drivers in race number 3. And with one more to go, you can see now all of our drivers are really pushing it to their utmost in order to get every single point they can. And looking at our completion order then, and our race results subject to any steward's decisions, of course, it is Let Quebec in who won ahead of Zephyx Bandit, and Giova finished off our podium from Prima Esports. And then our final placements for our top 5 go to Areticow for P4 and Schettura for P5. The fastest lap in race 3 being set by Zephyx Bandit, a 2:02.430 on lap number 5 on the final lap, where Bandit was pushing ever so hard to try and get past Quebec on that final lap, but it didn't quite work out. It was very close, however. And now we wait to get underway with the final race of this evening. Of course, we have got one more race to come at you. It is the feature race number 2, 15 laps, and by the end of it, who is going to be the race winner? We've got a lot of distance to go, and it could be anyone right now. And we're just going to ask people to reshare the stream because it cut out earlier. So we're going to get underway with the final race very shortly, folks. We're just getting our change of time of day. We're going to the evening. It's 6:15 in the evening now, local time. And we have got our 15-lap feature race. And it is night time now as well, folks, so it is headlights on, the trackside lights are on, and this will be a very, very different kind of race, because we've now got all the darkness around, and we will just have to see what is going to happen come the end of it. And I'm being asked by Cal right now, how's my stamina? Well, I shouldn't communicate too much to the drivers, but we'll just say we're exhausted. Oh, goodness me. Well, thank you for tuning in, Lerb, and, well, we've got one more race to go. We'll see what happens. It's a shame you can't stay around for the final race, because I'm sure it's going to be a cracker, but we will see what's going to happen. And for those of you who are currently in chat and watching, feel free to say hello once again. Say, not sure about those technical issues that happened, but what happens, happens. But we got the stream restarted for you, and, well, we only missed a little bit of qualifying, but we got to see the second half of qualifying, and we've got to see race 3, and we've got one more race to go. And do not go anywhere, because this one is going to be a brilliant one under the night lights at Bathurst. Take a very quick sip of water just to simply get ourselves set. But I think really in this one, Sonam is going to be in a very strong position. Now, he's had a difficult third race in the fact he made that major mistake, but we know that Sonam has got a lot of pace around here. The only thing he's got to be careful of is the fact that he's using a lot of fuel to deliver that pace, and that is going to cost him time in the pit stops. Now, pit stop wise, we saw in race number 2, which would be very similar to this race, of course, but a different time of day, we saw that the tyres lasted somewhere between 7 to 8 laps, and the fuel tank was approximately good for about 9 to 10 laps. And I think that's where it's all going to come into play, is whether Sonam, when he starts this race, is able to run away with it. And if so, if he can run away with it, can he build up enough of a gap so that way when he has to take on that additional fuel, if he's not able to fuel save, will he come back out in front? Or will it be somebody else who's able to get ahead of him? But we will find out, of course, as we say hello once again to Sabby. And hope you're doing well as we get race number 4 underway. It is go, go, go for the last time then, folks. We head to the start-finish line. We head down to the rolling start order, and let's see what happens. So as we pan to our rolling start procedure then, it will be Sonam from THG who leads us away. Behind him will be Epic Man San. And then we've got Azerty and Aurelius in P3 and P4. But watch out for Halbstark, who started P7. We know Halbstark's got a lot of pace, the TX3 driver, but it just hasn't always come to bear. Perhaps this will be his final opportunity to pick up a podium and also potentially a race win. So as all of our drivers make their way around, the rolling start gets underway, and it will be Sonam who leads us as the lights start to fade out and they'll go green. And we count down then, 3, 2, 1, it's go, go, go! And as they make their way down towards turn 1 for the final time and to begin the race, you'll see there is Sonam who's going to hold on for the time being. Epic Man San not able to get a very good start by comparison with Sonam, and it's worked out very nicely, has it, for the Dutch driver, as we see Azerty chasing after him. But meanwhile, further back, Aurelius being heavily harassed by Polo right now. Polo getting the better starts out of our top 5 drivers, as well as Sonam. And Aurelius, I think, is going to be attacked by Polo as they go up into turn 2. It's very difficult to tell if he's been able to get in front, but Polo hasn't, as the carbon brakes light up in the darkness there. You can see that heavy brake is going to generate a lot of heat in those front tyres immediately. And Lupinera in P6 right now. There's been no change as Halbstark's in P7. Cal in P8 in HRT's Mobile is doing a very good job right now of holding off the guys behind, but is starting to form a little bit of a bottleneck. As you see, Schettura is really starting to get clustered in here, and we have got a pack chasing after Kiao in P8 right now. And I think that's going to be the biggest stumbling block in this race for the drivers who qualified further back in terms of that reverse grid order, is trying to get past the Polish driver as they all make their way up towards Skyline. And we ride on board with Schettura, as we saw. Say we're going to ride on board, and somebody has got it very wrong, and that somebody is Safer, who's just been able to bring it back under control, but I think they just went a little bit wide there, and there is dirt on the tyres, as we see Bandit into the wall at the dipper, just before the dipper, and dropping all the way down the order. Now, does Bandit have damage? No, he doesn't have damage. That's very fortunate for Bandit, because if he had damage, that race would have been in tatters, I reckon. Now, as we flick back towards our lead drivers right now, what with Bandit having that bit of an off, it means that right as we head down towards the chase for the first time of our skid, it is going to be Sonam who is leading Azerty in a rather quiet P3 right now, and Aurelius being attacked by Polo going into turn 21 into the chicane. Will Polo go for the cutback here? He goes to the cutback, and Polo gets in. The house start goes off along with Aurelius, and the two drivers doing synchronised rally cross here, but they're going to have to rejoin, and they're going to rejoin right into the path of a number of other drivers, and that is going to completely throw things up in the air. So after one lap, it is Sonam ahead of Epic Sandsman, followed by Azerty, then Polo, followed by Lupanero, and then it is Kiao, followed by Aurelius, and then, well, I say Aurelius, and then Hal starts going for the move up into P7, so Aurelius in P8, followed by Areticow in P9, and then it's Schettura in P10, and it's Giova in P11, followed by Safer, then let Quebec in, and last but not least, as it currently stands, it's Bandit after that little mistake coming into the dipper. So it's been all chop and change so far between our drivers in the midfield and further back. But as they all make their way up towards turn 2 once more, you can see that Sonam is really starting to pull away here from the rest of the pack, as would be expected, as we predicted. And Lupanero is doing a good job of staying in that fight for the top 5, albeit I think Cal is holding everybody up here. We've got that long concertina of cars all making their way up behind the Polish driver as we hop to the rear of the bonnet, of the roof of Cal's car, and look back towards Halmstad here, and you can see how they're all clustering up, and it must be the case that right now Cal's got a much difficulty trying to focus on the road ahead of him, as he has all the lights of the cars behind him trying to get past him. And I can tell you one thing, if you ride in cockpit view and you drive in cockpit view, having all those lights reflected off your front panels can be a nightmare in the car, as a personal cockpit racer myself. But still, you can see that Cal is doing a good job of keeping the consistent laps together, and that means it's going to be more difficult for the drivers ahead of him to find a way past, at least early on in the race. But of course, when tyre wear comes in and fuel consumption comes in, that's where it can all change, and that's where the tables can be turned. As we see Halmstad is keeping well within arm's reach of Cal right now, and Lupanero is not too far up the road in P5. But meanwhile, looking further back from this pack, we can see that Aurelius is in P9 and not really gaining too much. I think everybody's in one another's slipstream right now, so we're not going to be seeing too many moves from everyone, or if it is, it's going to be a very last minute lunge attempt in order to try and break a slipstream as they come up into the chicane once again. And you can see in the rear of your camera shot, everybody getting a little bit sketchy going into turn 21-22. They just can't seem to get the rear end to settle down as much as they would like right now early on in the race. And I think that's also because everybody's running in one another's dirty air, and with the darkness descending as well, although our drivers will have practiced for this, that means what you have as visibility and all your markers start to change significantly, particularly if you're relying on lighting effects to give you an idea of where your brake markers and your turning points will be. Those are now completely changed, but I think these guys will be using solid markers as a minimum. Up front, there's no change still though. We are top 3 creeping away a little bit from Polo, who's in P4. Lupanero in P5, finding himself creeping backwards towards Cal in P6. The gap now 1.3 seconds. It was 1.5 seconds at the start of last lap, so that gap has come down by 2 tenths over the previous lap. But the Polish driver in P6 right now of Cal, HRT's Cal, is doing a fantastic job of just focusing on his race, but you do have to wonder how long it's going to be before Halmstad or somebody tries to put a move on, because look at the concertina of cars that are forming behind him. I mean, you can see that Aurelius has fallen back a little bit. I think Aurelius has had a bit of a hash brown in turn 1 and turn 2 on this lap, but Aurelius will be catching back up to these lead drivers in short order, I reckon, and that's when it's all going to bunch up once again. And then the likes of this man here, Schettura, will really want to try and find a way past as soon as possible, because they are losing time right now, and they are going to be feeling it arm over fist as they all come into the dip, and Schettura really riding on the brakes there, going as late as possible to stay as close as possible to Aurelius. And as they all come down through here, you can see out of the dipper, Schettura getting a blinder of a run out there, and Aurelius going defensive to try and cut Scettura's momentum. But Schettura is in the prime attacking spot, and he is going to be going for it here. And I think we could be seeing Giova also coming through on Aurelius as they all charge down towards turn 20, 21, 22. And who will it be at the end of that little sequence of corners in the lead of this pack for P10? Well, it is a case that it's going to be that Schettura is moving up into P9 as, well, Aurelius squeezes the door at Giova. He doesn't want two cars coming through, but I think Giova's got other ideas, and Giova pulls off a fantastic move around the outside there for P10. What a brilliant move. It was brave, and he had to rely on Aurelius giving him the space, but Aurelius did comply, and it worked out. Helmstark, I should say that Helmstark is now up into P6 as we see what happens here. We got past Cal. I think he finally got it done, and then I think Cal tried to come back at him in the run down towards the final corner. He did indeed, and did Helmstark just simply outdive him on the brakes? Yep, he did indeed, and Cal couldn't make it happen. So Helmstark finally up into P6, and now we'll see what the German can unleash versus the top 5. They're now going to be looking in their mirrors and thinking, oh crikey, we have got the German charging after us, and we've got to get a move on. As you can see, the Polish driver's not out of it yet. He is trying to chase back after Helmstark, but I think Cal realises that it's going to be a little bit of a bridge too far in order to catch up, and instead he might just want to stay in the slipstream of the driver who's ahead of him and think about defending Areticow off. As we look further back, we can see Schettura in P9 right now having cleared everyone, and there's been a huge change of places, I should point out. Bandit up into P10. And I think there has been some sort of incident between the guys behind Bandit, because Bandit has made it up into P10 literally at the start of this lap, on lap number 4. Giova falling back along with Aurelius, Safer and Quebec. So all those drivers really losing out. I don't think there's been any, well, there's damage to Quebec's car. What about some of the other drivers' cars here? We're going to have a look at this, folks. Well, Safer hasn't got any damage, neither has Aurelius, but Safer goes very heavy on the brakes. Oh, and clips the wall before the dipper, but just misses out on picking up any major damage. That is very, very fortunate. But Safer is sliding all over the place, really struggling to get temperature in those tyres by looks of things. That car does not look happy right now, and we can see that Giova hasn't picked up any damage either. So I think Bandit has just simply not made a mistake, and everybody else has, because otherwise Bandit has really gained a lot of place in a short period of time, and we have completely missed that. That is a very difficult one to call there, as we see Sonam now coming out of turn 22 and coming on to what will be the final corner of lap 4. Just doing enough right now, 3.1 seconds ahead, and Epic Man Sands 4.3 seconds ahead of Azerty, who is now starting to be reeled in by P4 and P5. Polo and Helmstark both catching up to Azerty right now and getting ever closer. They are chasing after him, and they are trying to pull the time on him as much as possible, but I do wonder how long it will be before the pit stops start to come in. As we say hello to Prima Tyra in the chat, and we look back to our racing, and we can see that Helmstark has got past Lupanero. In fact, Lupanero has really lost out. What on earth has happened to the GTD driver? Well, Helmstark got the move done well before that. I think Lupanero's made a mistake somewhere, because Helmstark has just made it. We are missing all the little bits here, as we see Cal is having to defend initially versus Areticow here, and I don't think there's going to be a move here as Areticow tries to find a way for up into turn 2, and it's not working out right now. But as we wait and see going into the cutting, I think Cal's going to have the defensive line here. I don't think Articow's going to get the move, but he's literally kissing the rear of the Polish driver's car here as if to give him the message, please get a move on. I'm a little bit faster than you, otherwise I'm going to have to force a move through on you. But Helmstark is the man on the mission, as is Bandit all the way down in P10. Both drivers making up places very rapidly, as we see a load of dust being kicked up there off of turn 8. And as they come through 9 and 10 right now, you can see that nobody's really finding a way of making a move. Nobody's making a major mistake, but it is definitely the case that some drivers may be feeling worn legs, as we see Epic Man San making a near miss coming out of the dipper there onto the exit wall on the left-hand side and just about holding it together. And it is Azerty who is now starting to hold everybody up. And look at the concertina of cars, and Helmstark right in the middle of that. It's probably thinking, oh boy, here we go again, another concertina effect to cars. And it is so close between them all. And as we look back from Azerty's car right now, you can see that whilst it's very dark here and we don't get much vision, you can see all these lights, all these headlights trying to come after him, and it's going to be Polo who's going to go for the move, I think, coming into the chase and coming down into the chicane, and Polo's going to go around the outside. Will he make it stick? And he's done it. Polo has done it, and I think Helmstark's going to come through as well, and oh, it's going to be a drag race down into the final corner on lap 5, and will Helmstark be able to outbrake Azerty? I think he's going to have it as Azerty locks up the brakes, and Helmstark's still side by side. He's not going to let it go, as they're all forming up in queue to take a punch out of Azerty right now and to take a swing out of his positions, and Helmstark's going to hold it round the outside into 1, and well, Azerty now is falling further and further back. And it is so difficult for Azerty right now because he'll want to fight for every single one of these positions, but at the same time he must know and recognise as well that every time he fights he's losing time, which he could potentially have later on in the race. But what a move from Halmstock to run that sequence and hold on to it, as we see Areticow having to go a little bit defensive into turn 2 versus Schettura behind. And I should point out that Schettura up into P8 after we have seen Cow fall all the way down to P11 for a mistake somewhere out on circuit, but it is so close between all of the drivers as we see Areticow down in P12 head to hold off Safer right now. These two drivers, of course, a bit further down our order than they perhaps like to be. And as they all make their way up through into the uphill section here, we see that Safer really putting the pressure on, but not able to get a move on Aurelius. But as we look further back up front, and I think Safer's going to be preparing a move for when we get onto the Conrod Straight, you can see that Polo is now in the sights of Halmstart as Azerty has fallen. Now Halmstart has got another driver lined up already, and Azerty here really trying to push as hard as possible, and you've got to feel through because he's going as hard as he can defensively, and he's trying to slow everybody up. But of course, at the same time, you can see how much life it's draining out of those rear tyres, and he's having to work so hard to keep his eyes on things. But Halmstart has already got things done. He's already up into P3 coming out of Forest Elbow. He just simply got the better exit there, and now as they all charge down towards the chase and the chicane here, it is going to be a case of, well, who's going to get past Azerty, and it is Lupanero and also Areticow who are past. So it's a 2-for-1 coming into the chicane, and Schettura is now the next person to try and go for the move. But let's wind back and see what happened there with Lupanero. Well, you're going to see that I think Lupanero simply has so much momentum versus Azerty, and I think what Areticow decides to do here is just simply tuck him behind and say to Lupanero, look, just pull me through with you and we'll fight a little bit later on. As you can see, Schettura also went for the defence on Giova and he pulled it off. He defended against Giova well enough as we... Oh, hold on a second, I say that, and what on earth has happened here? Some drivers have pulled down the order, and Schettura is... My goodness, my apologies. Schettura is all the way down in P12 right now. And what has happened to Schettura then, ladies and gentlemen? Well, he was down in P10, but was there a bit of an incident? Well, it looks like he's got dirt on his tyres because the car's just simply not worked out on the brakes, and that's what's happened to Schettura. So I think he went very wide, or there was a bit of contact between himself and another driver towards the end of that lap in that whole sequence of battling. But that's why Giova has moved up so far and Schettura has dropped down so far, and Cow is also up there into P8 right now. So that's how it's all changed up right at this point in time. But with all of our drivers making their way onto lap number 7 now, and then to the midway point of lap number 7, we see up front Sonam coming up towards the pit stop window now, 5.5 seconds ahead, and doing a very good job of simply maintaining that gap to Epic Man San. And Halmstock 5.3 seconds back. He's got past Polo, of course, but now he's got a lot of work to do. And remember, Halmstock has really had to work his tyres in order to build places, and particularly that front right tyre, you can see that it's a roughly 25% degradation now. And what that means is, as he locks up very heavily on that front right brake going through Forest Elbow, you can see the carbon ceramic disc glowing bright as ever, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer's nose there, where it means he's going to be putting a lot of life out of those tyres, and he really hasn't got much left. Although I say that, in one sector alone, in sector 3 alone, he has ripped half a second out of Epic Man San. So Halmstock is not holding out anytime soon. He knows there is the possibility of picking up the win here, and he is charging after our leaders hand over fist. But looking further back, it is Bandit who is now up into P6, and I think Bandit has made a double move. Well, he's made the move on Lupanero. It's just simply happened coming down the Conrod Straight. He's just had the momentum out of Forest Elbow, and that's how the Frenchman's up into P6. But in terms of pit stops, we've got everybody charging into the pits. Well, not everybody, I should say, as our race leader Sonam and also Epic Man Sam from P2 have pitted, and we see that Bandit has also pitted, but Halmstock is going to 1 lap longer here. Now this is going to be an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen, because Halmstock here going longer means he's going for the overcut, and it will give him the fresher tyres towards the end to chase after our race leaders. Now of course he needs to get this right, because if he doesn't, he could find himself coming out behind drivers who've already pitted, drivers on top of who he was behind originally, so he won't come out in effectively what is P3 by the end of it, and that would mean that he's going to have to fight his way back through and lose that fresh tyre advantage, because running the dirty of another driver will sap some life out of the tyres, and of course he's got to get the move done on another driver before he can go chasing after leaders. But Polo right now staying out long here in P2 currently, but approximately in the battle for P5 in the overall race standings, as we see Areticow also following suit and going into the wall, but staying out on lap number 8. And Safer on for a P4 right now in terms of his current track position, but of course in terms of the overall strategic position, much further down the order, approximately P9, P10 along with Schettura. But these guys trying to go long to make up for the fact that they lost out earlier in the race, as Aurelius says hello to the wall there, and I think Aurelius has picked up some sizable damage on the car, because that is not good. And in fact, we've got front axle damage across both sides of the car for Aurelius, plus front bumper damage, so I think Aurelius is going to have to hit for a huge repair job. And now this is where the problems begin, because remember, Sonam was the one driver who pitted from the lead and pitted early, but he has come out in a position now where he's catching up to a much slower driver, so Aurelius immediately gets out of the way. I think Aurelius recognises that car is crippled and he can't really fight for anything, so he's not going to try and hold anybody up, because it would be fruitless to do so, and Sonam is able to clear that back marker very quickly, and that is important for Sonam, as surely now Halmstad is going to be coming into the pits, and Areticow and Polo right now. Well, Polo has actually fallen down the order, and I don't know, has Polo hit a wall or something, because he has dropped all the way down from P2 to P3, and well, it was a bad exit out of Forest Elbow, and Areticow just had so much momentum coming down the Conrod straight into the chase, and that's how he got it done. But all three of these guys are coming into the pits, and Schettura as well, who's a bit slow into the pits compared to Safer. I think Safer was expecting that Schettura had been a lot faster, so Schettura taking the safety approach there, and Sonam now coming onto the start-finish straight to complete lap 8 and begin lap 9. As we see also, we have got Aurelius into the pits, and Epic Man San is going to come through. Now remember, when Halmstad when Sonam and Epic Man San pitted, Halmstad was approximately 12 seconds behind our race leader. How's this going to change? Well, Bandit is coming across the line right now. Remember, he pitted to undercut, much like the race leaders as well. And we can see that Halmstad is back out in P3, but Polo comes out and he has got Bandit really bearing down on him, and Bandit is up into P5 as a result of going for the undercut here. He's ahead of Areticow by the smallest of margins. But what about that gap to the race leaders? Well, that gap to the race leaders, I should point out, Halmstad has cut it down by going longer by 1.4 seconds. Well, no, not 1.4 seconds, my apologies, by 3.4 seconds. And Halmstad now is going to be in a prime position to chase down the leaders in the last few laps. We have got 7 laps to go, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be 6 after this one, and Halmstad is the one to watch. He could be on for the race lead right now, and potentially the race win if he nails these next few laps. Polo, meanwhile, has got the fast charging Bandit of Zephyx behind him, as Bandit is going to literally be putting it hammer and tongs all the way down to try and catch up to Polo in the fight for the outstanding positions in the top 5. Well, they could be on for a podium if he's also able to clear Polo rapidly and then close up the gap to leaders, but there's a long way to go, and it's a long distance for Bandit to close up. Areticow, meanwhile, has fallen off a Bandit, it should be pointed out. That gap has opened up to 1.5 seconds, and I think Areticow may be just nursing the car a little bit right now and recognising there's no need to push right now. You're still on for a good result with a P6, but we'll wait and see. As we see Lupanero in P7, he's dropped out a little bit in contention for the top 5, but the Italian driver from GTD doing a very good job of chasing after them, and we will wait and see what happens here as they make their way down towards the chase for the 9th time of asking. And we see Lupanero here just simply in a little bit of a no man's land, and Cal behind him feeling the same, I would say, as Giova has got Safer chasing after him. But Giova in P9 right now, pretty much coming out after all the pit stops where he was going into the pit stops, and I think the Prima Esports driver here will want a couple more places gained before the end of this one. I don't think he's going to be settling for P9, but we will wait and see, as we know all of our drivers are now coming on to lap number 10, and our race leader is pulling out to a 6.7 second gap over Epic Man San. But meanwhile, it's Halmstad who is closing down the gap to Epic Man San. The gap now 2.2 seconds. The gap to the race leader, however, is not closing. In fact, it has opened up a tiny bit over the last lap. It's opened up by a 10th. So Sonam right now really pushing it hard to try and keep Halmstad at bay, but we will wait and see with bated breath. As we see behind, Polo started to fall into the clutches of Areticow a little bit as they make their way out of turn 2 and up into 3 and 4 for the 10th time of asking. Now, as they make their way up here, of course, we've got to remember that this is the 4th race of the evening. We have done a huge amount of racing, all of our drivers here, and legs will start to get a little bit sore. Drivers will start to feel a little bit tired, and with the night setting as well, our drivers may be feeling a little bit sleepy, and that's the last thing you want. So that's all about concentration, and everybody will be needing to concentrate at their utmost here. I really want to be one of these drivers right now, because I'm sure some of them must be absolutely bricking it and booking the ticket to try and get the best possible result. But as they all make their way up towards the dipper, then Lupinero we ride with as he makes his way through the dipper. A nice clean run through there. Car getting it nice and cleanly through. A nice sharp front end on that McLaren 650. Clearly it's been tuned for the front end stability, and he's doing a very good job of just running that car in P7. We look further back and see if there's anybody closing up to one another, and we see that Giova is being closed up by Safer at quite a rapid rate. The Storm driver catching up to the Prima Esports driver at quite the rate so far, although I say that Giova getting a very good run out of Forest Elbow and actually being able to pull it away from Safer before he's able to capitalise on any potential slipstream effects, getting out of that 0.75 second slipstream zone very quickly. And I think that's the story of Giova's night, really, that he's had the car on the straights, or at least the acceleration out of the corners onto the straights, but he just hasn't had the laps he's always wanted. It's not always worked out for him. As we see, meanwhile, in the chase for P2, Halstar has closed that gap up a little bit more, but at the same time, it is only creeping closer and closer lap after lap by a couple of attempts. So I don't think Halstar's got it in him to get that race win unless Sono makes a major error. And meanwhile, Bandit behind is chasing after Halstar. The gap is 3 seconds and closing at a very gradual rate. We will wait and see, of course, whether Bandit is going to be competing for the top 3 tonight in this race, but I think Bandit will be sniffing a potential podium here should the fighting really kick off between Halstar and Epic Man Sands, as we see Polo being closed up by Areticow right now. And as we switch to Areticow and we ride on board with the Belgian driver here and look forward and get a face full of Polo's rear end, I should say his car's rear end, not the driver's rear end, ladies and gentlemen. The Frenchman here really having a difficult time of trying to chase after Bandit, and I think he's going to be focusing more on the defensive posture rather than the offensive posture. But through here and through the entire hill section, he won't have to worry, because you can't really go for a move unless the driver ahead of you makes a massive mistake and pulls off the racing line. But even then, it's so tight to get off the racing line is very difficult. But you can see that Polo just starting to struggle a little bit with nailing those apexes. Let's see how they both do going through the dipper. And you can see Articow's rear end just slipping away a little bit there, but he's chewing that car clearly for a bit of oversteer going through the section into the dipper just to help it rotate through and carry a lot more momentum. And coming down to Forest Elbow, Polo clipping the wall there. Meanwhile, Areticow not clipping the walls whatsoever, but Polo just seemingly holding on for a little bit longer. I think Areticow may be getting him within striking distance, as we see that Halstar has made the move on Epic Man Sands. I think this was due to come, but I think Epic Man Sands hasn't had the best run out of Forest Elbow this time. As we look further back, and Areticow is going for the move on Polo as was anticipated, and Areticow is up into P5 and chasing after the podium as well. So we've got 3 drivers really trying to get onto the steps of the podium here. It's Areticow, Bandit and Halstar. Well, Halstar's already into second place, and can he close down an 8-second gap to leader? But here's the move from Halstar then. So coming out of Forest Elbow, I suspect you're going to see Epic Man Sands just get a really bad run out there. There was no momentum coming out of the corner, and as a result he's just simply lost the pace. And Halstar said, well, given you've made a mess of it, Epic Man, I'm just going to simply creep past. And they're both TX3 drivers as well, so I think Epic Man's probably also thought, well, he is my teammates, there's no point really holding them up, because this is a team championship at the end of the day and every point matters. So the fact they're not tripping over one each other right now will be important. I think Epic Man Sam will be looking more towards his rear view mirror right now at the fast charging Bandit and what he can achieve, as Polo is trying to come back at Areticow, but it's not enough going into turn 2 this time around, as both drivers get through there cleanly. Looking further back, Lupinero still 4.9 seconds behind Polo in the battle, or in the chase for P6, but in his P7 position right now, he's 2.2 seconds ahead of Giova, who's in P8, and is doing a very good job of keeping that gap to Lupinero as honest as possible, although Safer has dropped back to 2.1 seconds right now. I think the Frenchman has lost a bit of momentum and just doesn't have it in him anymore to catch up to Giova at this point in the race, but he may be conserving energy for a final push. As we see Schettura, meanwhile, is doing everything he can to close up that gap to Safer, and that gap is coming down gradually, but the Belgian driver will know he hasn't got long left. He has got the best part of 3.5 laps to close it up as he comes over Skyline here, and he needs to get a move on. Kiao has not had the best of races from HRT, but he is trying to get back into that top 10, and again he'll be like Schettura in the fact he'll be trying to close that gap down as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, let Quebec in, where it has been such a difficult race for the Canadian. It just hasn't worked out with that early damage, and it's just been a disaster. I don't think we're going to be seeing Quebec in the top 10, but can't be surprised if we do in the end. And Azerti, well, the one driver who we thought was going to have a much better race, as Azerti clips the wall coming out of the dipper there. And is that damage? It is damage on the front axle. That's such a shame for Azerti, because he's just had a really bad run a lot, and perhaps the combination just hasn't been the one he's wanted. wanted today as he tries to go defensive versus Aurelius, but I think this is going to be a formality rather than anything serious because Aurelius hasn't got damage on the car by comparison. Well, actually, I say that they've both got damage to their front axles here, but Aurelius has got the momentum, so it's going to be two damaged McLarens fighting over P13 for the rest of this race, potentially, although it looks like Aurelius has got the move done. Meanwhile, up front, it's a 7.9 second gap from Sonnen back to Halfstart. Halfstart is starting to reel that gap down as we see Bandit has actually got the move done on Epic Man San. Now, where has that happened? Well, it's probably happened into the chicane at the end of the previous lap. We didn't see it on camera, but that gap would suggest so. So Bandit has got past Epic Man San off camera, and what that now means is that Epic Man San up into P4 and doing everything he can in order to simply hold off Areticow. Now I think the TX3 driver here is starting to fall off the cliff, and the tyres would show it, particularly that rear right tyre. Well, both the rear tyres actually seem to indicate that cliff is coming, and I think for Epic Man right now he's just going to have to worry about trying to hold on to a top 5 position, and if he was to let Areticow go come Forest Elbow onto the Conrod straight, I think he could use Areticow to slingshot himself up towards the chicane and give himself a nice bit of breathing room, because the gap between Areticow and Polo is 2.2 seconds right now, and that 2.2 seconds over 2 laps is quite a gap to close down for Polo, although I'd say that, but Polo can do it. It's a case of, will Epic Man San be able to control the car to get to the end? That is the big question. We will find out. It's both. Oh, and Epic Man San gets it very wrong. He gets it. Oh goodness me. And what on earth has happened here? Two drivers getting it wrong in quick succession. And Polo into the wall as well. What on earth has happened to all 3 drivers? That's literally all 3 of them making very similar mistakes. Well, we are going to ride on board with Areticow first to find out what happened. So coming down the hill here, let's take a look at the telemetry. I think Epic Man's just going to go too deep and hit the wall. And does Areticow have to react to this? As he gets on the power, and it looks like Areticow had to react by getting close to the wall, but in return he got too close to the wall, and oh goodness me, and Areticow rejoining, and he rejoined right onto the path of what was the car of Polo at the time, and Polo had to take emergency evasive action. That is so unfortunate for the drivers there, and I think there might be some words with the stewards after the race about that one. There might be some investigations about that, but that was a very unfortunate series of events, and Polo was the one who was affected the most by it, simply because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he could have capitalised and picked up 2 places for the cost of 1 there, as both drivers made mistakes, but he was the victim of running into a mistake train. Nonetheless, we can see that Bandit is chasing after Halfstart. It's much like the earlier races, these two getting closer and closer together. We saw that in race 2 and we're seeing it again in race 4. They're inseparable, these two. A 1.4 second gap between the two of them right now. Well, I say that, Halfstart made a major error into the cutting, and that gap has come down to 8 tenths of a second in short order. So Halfstart is going to be vulnerable, I would argue, coming onto the final lap, if not on this lap, into Forest Elbow and onto the Conrod Straight. Further back, however, Epic Man San in P4 right now, and he'll probably be laughing to the bank to the fact that he's in P4 and he hasn't had to worry about holding off many drivers behind him. Or now he will have to worry, because clipping the wall there coming up into the Skyline section, well, that is not good from Epic Man San, because he's going to lose a lot of momentum versus Areticow. But Areticow, of course, running a very heavily wounded car. Meanwhile, Epic Man San, I don't think he's got too much damage on the, he's got no damage on the car, just worn tyres. So it really is a toss-up between the worn tyres of Epic Man San and the damaged rear axle of Areticow. Place your bets now as to who's going to bring it home in P4 out of these two, and where would Lupinero come into this mix? Well, Lupinero won't be coming into the mix if he almost clips the wall there out of Forest Elbow again, and we can see Beaumont up front. Halfstart just keeping Bandit away for the time being, but in the hunt for P6, Jehovah smells it, and he's going for that P6. He's going to get the run here. Will he be able to have enough momentum to go for the move into the chicane? He goes to the inside for turn 20. And will he have enough to get it done before turn 21? And he does. He stamps it on the anchors and he nails it on the brakes. So Giova up into P6 for Pre-Marine Sports, and GTD's Luperino is down into P7. Meanwhile, behind him, Safer chasing after, of course, and Schettura all the way down in P9 right now and trying to catch up and get past Safer as we go on to the final lap, as it's being led by Sonam right now. And Halfstart, well, he's being reeled in by Bandit. The gap is 1 second between the two of them. And I think a move could be on in very short order. I think a move might be on coming onto the Conrod Straight. Goodness me, as we take a very quick breather for the finale then, and you can see that Areticow right now chasing after the TX3 driver ahead of him, but the gap is just a bit too far for him to be able to get any leverage before the cut-in, so it is going to be a case of he's got to maximise how much time he gains going through the Skyline section, i.e. up the hill and down the hill before Forest Albert, as we see Bandit drifting all sorts of sideways out of the cutting and now coming up towards turns 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 before Skyline. He's going to be literally booking it around the circuit now as fast as he can here. It's going to be Smokey in Bandit's case, but I think he's just making some minor errors and it's not enabling him to close up. I think Halstark's got this in order so long as he doesn't make any mistakes, but it's the last lap of a race, the whole series of races tonight that have been so difficult for our drivers, and Bandit is really trying to catch up. He's losing the time right now. I don't think he's got it in him as they come out of Forest Albert for the last time, and the gap is 1.3 seconds. I don't think Bandit's going to have enough in the tank as Epic Man Sant is holding off Areticow right now. He's holding on for dear life as both drivers drift their way through Forest Albert, and you can see that Areticow has had a very smooth run out of that corner by comparison, but again I don't think it's going to be enough, although I may be surprised here by Areticow. Will he be able to go for the lunge into the chicane? We will wait with bated breath and see as they all go towards turn 20. Epic Man Sant getting onto the dirt, that's not going to help him for braking. Meanwhile up front it is Sonam who is going to bring home the win in the final race of this evening, having led from the front start to finish. Congratulations to him. Meanwhile second place will go to TX3's Halstark ahead of Bandit. And what about P4? Well, it will be Epic Man Sant in the end who is going to hold on by looks of things in the drag race to the line. He just about holds off Areticow in the hunt for P4. Giova in P6 in the end. Safer in P7 ahead of Lupanero in P8, Schettura in P9, and then our top 10 will be completed by Le Quebecan from Phoenix Racing running under the TX3 livery there, and HRT's Count in P11. Then it will be RTA's Polo 171, the Frenchman, after what was such a fantastic race. That mistake, or that instant we should really say, towards the end there cost him so many places, and he will be ruining that one. I think he'll be going to the steward's office immediately after this one to complain, whereas it'll be a realist in P13, and last but not least a Zerti from Storm in P14 rounding off our places. Congratulations to all of our drivers, but of course congratulations once more to our race winner, this time Sonam from Greece. What a phenomenal set of races tonight, and what a great race to end it all. There was drama, there was fastest laps, there was phenomenal action up and down the field, and it really goes to show how much great racing the McLaren 650S GT3s have produced for us out Bathurst. What a race. And here's your race order, subject to any stewards' decisions, of course. Sonam bringing home that win in the final race of tonight ahead of Halstark and Bandit, who finished on the podium. Meanwhile, Epic Man Sant coming home in P4. He'll be very pleased with that, given the fact that things started to fall away towards the end of that final stint, and Areticow completing our top 5. The fastest lap in this final race being a 2:01.960, going to Zephix Bandit on lap number 9. I think some of our drivers will feel as though the night time perhaps caught them out a little bit, but what a great set of races, and we should say congratulations to all of our drivers. And we're going to take a brief breather before we potentially invite some of our drivers for post-race interviews. What a phenomenal set of races tonight. But as we take a very brief breather, and we also say hello to Andy Dawson. Doing well, my friend, but exhausted and lost my voice as always. And thank you, Premier Esports. And we'll just wait to see if anybody's up for a post-race interview. Maybe the case that none of our drivers are, to be fair. Perhaps they'll want to rest. Alternatively, completely understandable, English may not necessarily be their first language, so as a result they may not be able to do a post-race interview in English. But I must admit, I do feel very sorry for Polo in the fact that that was a very, very difficult end to the evening, in the fact that it all went okay. It was all going so well. Two drivers ahead make mistakes, and he just happens to be in the wrong place and gets caught out right at the end there. But still, great racing throughout. And Schettura and Areticow both up for post-race interviews by the looks of things. So we will invite them into the chat very shortly. We're going to take a quick sip of water. As we invite our drivers in. So it'd be Schettura and Areticow. Okay, so we are just going to get the party set up. So that's why you have lost sight of the screen for the time being, folks. Give me a second. We are going to invite our two drivers into a party. If you just bear with me for a moment. So we're just waiting for our drivers to join us now. Hello, hello. Is that WSR-Areticow?
Hello,
Doing
Paul.
good, thank you. And hello to you, GTBE-Schettura. How are you doing, guys? So it definitely looked as though in the opening two races for yourself, Areticow, that you seem to have quite a bit of difficulty in just finding some pace, and as you say, the grip. But it was in the second half you seemed to come alive a bit more. What did you do to sort of try and get back in the swing of things? You really built up some pace in race 4 in particular. You were flying. Just quickly, we're just hearing from our viewers that we can't hear your respective microphones coming through. So could you just... Stream chat, can you hear him? Just waiting to find out. They can be a bit slow, some of the guys typing in chat. They can't hear you at the moment. So what you can do, if you go to the party, and you've gone to party settings and set allow your voice to be shared. All right, we'll just wait and find out. That's no problem.
Areticow told you. Ah, salut Jova. Ah,
hello Jova, how are you? Cool man.
Just quickly, Giova, just before we get underway with including you in the interview, can you just make sure in your party settings that you've got your audio set to always allow to be shared? So did you say it was it's set to always allow? All right, brilliant. Should be able to hear all three of you guys now. So welcome to the interview box, Giova. Just carrying on with Areticow first. So as you were saying, Areticow, that you had to make some adjustments to the car for the second two races because you just couldn't seem to find the grip in races 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing at all. Actually, I've tried managed, like I said, I tried to find a little bit of grip, the first two races. But I didn't seem to actually to manage to find the grip, so I was struggling, honestly, especially the first race. I had really had a hard time actually finding grip. But anyway, I just managed to do some minor modification for the third and fourth race, which helped a little bit, but the grip wasn't there anyway. So, like I said, I'm not sure whether it's the lobby who had the problem or the connection problem, but especially with this last update that we had, we had a lot of problems with the lobbies. But unfortunately, I couldn't do any better than that anyway. So. I'm trying to limit the damage, Well,
you certainly did a very good job in that particular final race, where your final position in race 4 was a 5th place, was a very well earned one. But coming away from yourself to your colleague Schettura. So Schettura, you've had a very up and down night, looking very strong in qualifying, but in the race it didn't always work out.
For me, it was the same of Areticow. I didn't find the grip. I was in qualifying session. I was 300 millimeters second slower.
Faster, yeah.
Slower than I'm in training. And raised it was the same. I don't understand what's happened not tonight, but you know me, Paul. I never make. I'm not the faster, but I never make a mistake. In race one, I crashed. I crashed the car. It was stupid, but I lost grip. I don't know. I don't know if it was my connection, if it was because we race in Saturday and they have FIA. I don't know. I don't know what's happened, but okay, it was fun. It was hard, like always, because GTfusiOn is not easy race. It's very long. It's 4 races, and I never give up, as always.
Well, of course, and that's all the spirit.
Et toi, Jova, ça allait, toi, la voiture, le grip?
Parle anglais, non?
Ah oui.
Ouais, ça allait la voiture. So the car was good in the race, but I find that I couldn't find the real potential of my car. But I think I didn't have too much training, because I think I trained for this race 2 hours, I think. But at the end of the 3rd and 4th race, I find the pace a little bit, but at the end, the 4th race, I lost the car at the top of the mountain, and I touched the wall, so I had damage. So I could do P4 at the last race, but I did P6. But I think I grabbed big points for the team, and I hope they will grab big points tomorrow. And that's it. But it's always difficult to drive in this track with that car, because it's very stable.
Yeah, it's too powerful, and there's too much torque, you know. So you gotta manage that torque the car has, you see. And especially with the different times, you know, the grip also changes all the time. So, for instance, with the last race, first of all, there's zero visibility because we're driving at night, you see, and especially when you follow the cars behind you, you know, there were a lot of dust actually. So entering the corners was very, very hard actually getting into it, because you can't see where's the wall. But anyway, I think we did our best today. So
Yes, it's not easy. 4 races.
I didn't hit you. Did I hit you, Jova? No, I didn't touch you for the 4th race. I know somebody was behind me. I made a mistake, and my car actually just went on the track, and I couldn't stop it. So I know somebody was behind me, and I think he tried to avoid me, and then he broke his car. I don't know who it was.
No, it wasn't me.
It wasn't you, okay.
So that was Rolo, who we were watching that as it happened, and that was a very unfortunate sequence of events, because as you lost control of the car, what with
I wanted to actually avoid the TX3 Epics, man. Yeah, trying to avoid him, so my car went onto the grass, and I couldn't stop it, to be honest with you. The car was going by itself, and then I found myself all of a sudden on a track, you know, and I don't know who actually it was, so I'm so sorry for him anyway.
Yeah, because that was a very difficult situation, because it was almost as if nobody wanted to go down to the Conrod Straight and be the first one there. One person makes a mistake, you make a mistake, then Rolo gets caught up behind
exactly,
it.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for the last two longest race, the pace at the beginning, I found that it was actually too slow. The guys was braking way too early, you know, which actually broke my rhythm. You know, I couldn't actually find my rhythm throughout the 2nd race and the 4th race. But anyway.
So, on that point, one quick question I'd just like to ask all 3 of you in turn is, at the start of the race, what we saw in each of the races, particularly races 2 and 3, was there seemed to be, as you say, 1 or 2 drivers who were just a bit slower than everybody else, and it caused a massive traffic jam going up the hill and down the hill. How did you adjust your driving styles to that? Because you guys had a lot of patience to be sat behind those drivers, because you can't make moves at Bathurst on the hill.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly, yeah. But I personally myself, I try to actually, I was hoping, to be honest with you, it's quite bad, but I was hoping when some of the guys in front of me, do a mistake and then overtake them, and I was actually hoping for a crash, to be honest with you, But it was very extremely difficult, especially through the straight line, or the second straight line, with the downstream. Guys were right behind each other, so they were actually going faster than each time. Even though I was right behind him, it was quite hard, overtaking. But like I said, it was very, very difficult because I couldn't actually, well, for myself, I couldn't actually find my rhythm because the guy at the front were too slow. So I just went with the flow and trying to manage, to follow them and hope not to hit a wall or break my car, and pray for a miracle, you see.
Very true. How about yourself, Giova? What was it like for yourself trying to stay behind those drivers who are that bit slower?
Yes, I try to be very careful of each other to not touching the others and doing some damage to the others and to my car. But in this track, apart the two straights, you couldn't make
overtake.
Yes, and so you have to be very careful to keep your head down and to keep your tires. So
cool,
you can do. So the race is on the fuel saving and the tires, and then for the second stop, for the stop, you did the second stint, and the second stint makes you feel very, very cool and very
comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. You need to be patient, but with a reverse race, it's very, very complicated to overtake because all guys take the slipstream, and in straight line, it's if they don't have gap between all the driver. It's impossible to overtake, so you need to be patient and hope they make a mistake or saving fuel. Depends. But okay, me, I need to go. Paul, I would say thanks too much to you for coming in GTfusiOn. But I need to go because I need to collect all results of all group of today, and I hope see you soon. Jova, ça me fait plaisir de te rencontrer, je le dis en français. Ça fait longtemps que je te connais, on a rarement eu l'occasion de se croiser en piste. Voilà, je te souhaite le meilleur pour cette saison au GTfusiOn et tu sais, voilà, il faut vous préparer. Sans entraînement, GTfusiOn, c'est impossible, quoi. T'as beau avoir tout le talent que tu veux, and you have a lot of talent, I know you, but if you want to perform in GTfusiOn, you need to practice more, because
a lot of training.
race in GTfusiOn,
it's not simple, honestly, it's not
never
simple.
But I need more free times because I'm studying at school, so it's not easy. I need to practice and studying for my last years at school. But yes, I know.
Yeah,
it's
anyway,
not,
but
wonderful
result for your team. Honestly, respect, and hope we'll do well. Well, you guys do well as well for the second round.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome, man.
It was phenomenal, and just one very last quick question before you guys go. Just in one sentence, what do you think about the new pit stop times now they've been increased?
It was about time, honestly. It was about time, because that's more realistic. For me, it's a good thing.
Good. It's a good idea, but the problem we work 3 weeks to build the combination car and tire wear and the track. And when we made the test, if you made 2 pits or 1 stop, it was exactly the same second after 15 laps. But we published the regulation, and they move and they change the pit. So next race we will rebuild again to have more strategy possible.
I understand, that makes sense.
But like I said, for me, in one word, it was good actually. So because it's prevented, for people to do 2 stop. You see, because of the waste of time in the pit lane. You see, so it pushed people or all the drivers, to go for 1 stop. You see, rather than 2 stop. And strategically, I think it was a good idea. We had two choices, whether we could go pit in at the last of the 7th lap, or we had a choice of going into the last of the 8th lap. You see, but all it depends on what happened on the track. You see, that's what happened to me for the second race. On my first one, actually, I went on the 7th, on the end of the 7th lap, because I was actually following Zefix Bandit, So I saw him, he went straight ahead, so I said, what, I'm gonna use the undercut. And instead of that, he managed to came up just in front of me, And he pulled away anyway. So
and
it was hard, honestly, physically and mentally it was very hard, at least for myself.
It sounds it in all 3 of you. And just a quick word from yourself, Giova, your thoughts on the pit times?
Well, I think it's good. You can have a glass of wine or something else. Have a break. I think the pit stop was like 25 seconds or 30 seconds. So yes, you can have a drink. Yes.
Yeah, it seems longer. Yeah, it seems very long to enter the pit lane, because sometimes you had all the mechanics were waiting for the car when the car wasn't even there. You see, but well, anyway, that's the challenge as well. You see, so we had to adapt ourselves with that as well. So.
Sorry, guys, I have a question.
Yes.
A last one for Paul.
Go ahead.
I saw your picture. I saw you are a good racer. You made many races. If you want, in every Friday before the GTfusiOn, we have open series. I don't know if you saw the live yesterday.
I saw little bits of it.
Okay. If you want, you're welcome. I can give you a wild card, and you can race with us on Friday.
Oh well.
In GTfusiOn.
If you wish, and if you have time, obviously.
I'll definitely have to have a think about it, but I really do appreciate that offer. I won't say no, I'll let you know.
Pardon, il a dit qu'il va réfléchir et il va pas te dire non, mais il va réfléchir et il te donnera sa réponse.
And Paul, of course, you need to keep it secret. But if you don't have time to build the setting of the car, we can help you. Because you are not a competitor of us. You understand? I'll give you a wild card. It's just for you to have fun and to feel the race, the rounds.
Well, I may have to take you up on that offer. I'll definitely be in touch.
Il va te tenir au courant, apparemment.
Okay.
But with that, guys,
Okay.
I appreciate you're probably looking to go get some sleep and wrap up for the evening. So thank you all for joining me in the interview box, and congratulations on your racing tonight. Great racing.
Well, thank you for having us, for inviting us as well, and thanks for the live. I'm sure you did a wonderful job, and yeah, we should see you this next round.
Yep, we'll see you next round, and I'll be sure to be there, bringing all the action to you.
I know, I'm sure. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. See you.
See you, Paul. Bye. Thanks so much.
Au revoir, Jova. See you.
Salut,
ciao, ciao.
Jova. À la prochaine.
Salut.
Bye.
Félicitations. Ciao.
Merci.
Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that concludes tonight's proceedings. A fantastic set of races all the way through, and a fantastic set of interviews to wrap up the night from Schettura, Areticow and Giova. You can clearly hear that all the drivers that we had the chance to talk to really threw everything into it. They were caught out a bit by the lack of grip in the opening races, but they adjusted accordingly and really worked it for the results. Of course, that's just round one, and we've got a month to go until round number 2. I'll definitely be bringing you Group E once again in a month's time, but until then, thank you for tuning in as always, and I may just have to take up that offer of participating in one of the Friday night rounds of GT Fusion in the future, but I'll let you know about that in due course. But until next time, as always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.